I see it. Okay, welcome everyone to the meeting of the Education Subcommittee on the 10th day of March. And we are going to try to take up 6 bills today. We'll see how we do. If we get stuck, it's going to be kind of rolling. I did text you all and tell you that we'll have a meeting on 12:30 on Thursday and probably one on Friday. One of those will be pretty quick. We're going to try to clear out some maybe, I don't know if we'll do them all at once. I have to talk to Alistair, try to clear out some local bills that have been approved and are the delegation has sent us a letter on, but we'll get to those a little later today. We're going to start off with House Bill 297, which came to us as a bill that was going to create pathways for GED people, people who want to get a GED, who are working or planning to work. They would be able to demonstrate skills that they learned at their work to help satisfy some of the requirements of getting a GED. Both the Senate and we had concerns that the bill might encourage high schoolers to drop out and get a job when we would really like them to pursue the fullness of their high school diploma. So we kind of took out, the amendments are going to take out the high school level of this, but keep the other parts in place. Alistair, I do the elevator version. Do you have anything that that you need to clean up for me on that?
Not clean up, just a little more clarity. The bill as it came in had 2 pathways to a GED in addition to the current 3 pathways to a GED. These additional pathways were this GED option pilot program that the chair was discussing and this MD Diploma Works pathway. The option pilot program, the amendments strike that and leave only in place the MD Diploma Works, which will operate as a 4th pathway for adults only to get GEDs.
And Delegate Hornberger has a question.
Yeah, just an implementation question. So, the folks that are eligible or we hope to get a GED, they've self-excluded themselves for whatever reason. How do we reach this audience and avail them all these pathways if they've sort of divorced themselves from the educational system? I mean, I think these are great. We have 20, 30 different ways to get your GED, but if the person is self-excluding, how we reconnecting with them and saying, hey, here's these 5 or 7 or 10 pathways.
There's nothing in the bill about that, and might have been interesting for us to consider that. Who's the agency? Is it State Department or is the works group of something else?
It's the Maryland Department of Labor who operates all the GED programs, and the current existing pathways. One is that you take a series of subject matter exams. The other is a portfolio-based pathway, and the third is going to adult high school. So I think to the degree that people are not availing themselves with those options, this represents more of a career-focused pathway, and therefore might, if the thing that led you to drop out of school was just hating schoolwork, this is like a little bit more, you still have to do some exam-based work in this one, but it's less like going back to school and more like embedded in your particular career.
Yeah, I mean, I totally support the concept. I just
yeah, we can put some.
If it falls in the woods and nobody hears it, then it doesn't help anybody.
If we can put some, we can contact the Department of Labor, excuse me, and encourage them to make sure that we do this. But there's nothing pasted into it that would do that right now. And I'm not. The worry is as soon as you make them do that, then they start calling fiscal note, and we run into trouble with the bill. Right now, fiscal notes are not friendly, to us if they have numbers in them. So
sure.
Okay, so the amendments drop out the takeout.
If labor is the one doing this, we can mandate that they because they have to interface with all employers. This is an employer pathway. You could mandate that they share this in a newsletter or some correspondence that they're already doing with employers that this is now an option. Just
a bad idea. Sure. Alistair, do you think they would do that? They could do that without significant cost? Should we just say that you should make sure it's clear on their website and in their correspondence that this pathway is available?
Sure, if that's the will of the subcommittee, I think we could have a uncodified amendment at the end that they put on their website information about this pathway and notify people that it's available. Would that address the concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great.
Okay, so we can take up that amendment separately, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. I don't see anybody raising their hand and going, this sounds like a bad idea. The only thing we'll double check, but I think to take the amendments that we have along with Delegate Hornberger's suggested amendment we could take that as a single motion on an amendment on the amendments here.
Yeah, move favorable on that.
Second.
Favorable, and I have a second from Delegate Roberson. Is there any further discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, raise your hand if you approve the amendments, please.
Aye.
Vogel all of a sudden shows us his countenance and raises his hand. Thank you. And then on the bill as amended.
So if you have.
Move favorable.
Got a favorable and I have a second
Second.
favorable from Roberson, second from Patterson. Is there any further discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, please raise your hand if you approve the bill as amended.
Aye.
And thank you. I didn't see, Joe, your hand go up, but I'm going to ask if there's any objections, and there are none. So we pass it 6-0. Okay, next bill for consideration is the Education Screening Bill, House Bill 856. This is the bill that responds to the necessity of checking not sexual. Teachers will still have to go through the full screening process that they normally go through for bad behavior, sexual predators, things like that. But this goes a step further and uses a group called NASDAQ. It's got a lot of consonants in it, so you can pronounce it how you want. But it basically says that they will check for anomalies in their credentialing if there seem to be untruths in some of the things they said, and it happens. I'm going to go to Mary Pat on this. We had to work on at what moment in the procedure of hiring somebody it occurs. Mary Pat Fannin, if you would weigh in on that, please, to make sure we understand when that is.
Good afternoon. Yes, this will be, we will screen at the time of offer.
And that seems, we sat down with the State Department and with some locals and with PZAM obviously kind of represents the locals, and everybody said that works. And it might catch a situation. There's an example, and we use that as kind of a guide for what we're looking for here. Alistair, I'm not clear if we have any amendments. We do have an amendment because we have an amendment we agreed on. Can you describe it, please?
Yeah, so the bill as introduced requires that the screenings begin on October 1st, 2026. There was some concern that that's not a timeline that works with hiring for the school year because many people are hired before the school year. So the one amendment changes that date to August 1, 2026. Additionally, the bills that came in required that each local school system required each applicant to apply for the appropriate license after the offer of employment, and additionally obtain the appropriate license before interacting with any children. There's an issue there in that you might get held up in getting your license from no fault of your own. So the before any interaction with children portion is struck. There remains, however, like you stated, the existing requirements that there be the employment history check on people who interact with children and the general criminal background history check. So those processes remain in place.
Are there any questions on the amendments?
Move
Do I have,
favorable.
can I have a motion on the amendments then?
Move favorable with the amendment.
Okay, so Delegate Patterson has taken a nice step and I appreciate it. She says, let's move favorable on the bill with the amendment. So we can do that in one step if everybody is okay with that, unless without objection, we will move favorable with the amendments as described. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, if you're favorable, please raise your hand. All right, and I don't know about Vogel. He's going to appear and raise his hand. Thank you, Delegate Vogel. And so that bill carries on a unanimous vote with the amendments as described. Thank you. Next bill is House Bill 505. This is a bill that says if a student has arrived at a new school and their academic records are not being transferred in a timely fashion for them to be placed, that they may use unofficial records to get themselves placed in the school, not to get credit, not to graduate, none of that, just to get proper placement in the school. They can bring an unofficial transcript with them. And we've amended the list slightly that's allowed. And so I'm going to turn to Alistair and let him describe what the things were and now what we decided to allow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the bill came in, it allowed evidence to count towards the student's placement in an education program to include the unofficial transcript, report cards, standardized test scores, copies of awards and honor documents, unofficial AP and IB exam results, or any other unofficial record. The amendment would slightly modify this list, removing the any other catch-all phrase and the copies of awards and honors documents, and changing the standardized test score reports to subject matter relevant standardized test score results.
So we just neatened it up a little bit. The awards, we really didn't feel like should be used to place students necessarily, depending on the efficacy of awards that are out there. So those are the amendments. Does anybody want to discuss the amendments? Because we can try a similar motion to what we did before. Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion on the bill with the amendments if somebody would like to do so.
So move.
Okay, we have the bill with amendments
Second.
before us. Unless there's an objection to attaching the amendments in the vote right now. If there's further discussion on the bill with the amendments. Seeing none, let's move forward on a vote. All those in favor of House Bill 505 with the amendments as described, please raise your hands. We are unanimous, and we have Delegate Pastor. So nice to see you, ma'am. Excellent that you're here. House Bill 505 will carry on to committee as well. House Bill 534 is a bill we passed last year. We have been asked to pass it again. I don't think the Senate took it up properly. This bill would say that a school may not withhold. I'm going to let you say it, Mouse. I want to say it correctly, so I'm going to let you do it here because I'm got a little twisted on what I was going to say there.
Yes, sure, sir. A school may not basically use a transcript to collect a debt. Specifically, they're prohibited from refusing to issue a transcript because a student owes a debt, conditioning the issuance of a transcript on the payment of a debt, charging a higher fee for obtaining a transfer because a student owes a debt, providing less favorable treatment of a transcript because a student owes a debt, or using a transcript generally as a tool of debt collection.
And I don't believe we've amended this one at all because we passed it in the same form as last year. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Is there any
I can-
discussion? Is there any discussion on this bill? Yes, Delegate Hornberger.
Yeah, I just had some robust debate with my colleagues about this. Just to clarifying, so let's say it's a private school, parochial school, whatever. My understanding is no one's going to extend credit to a student for more than a year. And in many cases, you have to pay before you enroll. So I guess, do we have a scenario? I mean, I support the bill, love the bill, but do we have a scenario, or is there something playing out right now that we're trying to offset?
I
This
do
bill's
think
been
there.
around for 2 years, so I don't know that we have an example in front of us right now. But go ahead, Alistair.
I'm sorry, sir. I do think that in the fiscal note, MSDE said that they get about 25 complaints about this a year. So I think it is a slight problem, but not a major problem.
Okay, yeah, love the bill, but thank you.
Thank you. No amendment to consider. Is there any further discussion on the bill?
Yes.
Delegate Pastor.
Yeah, just to answer the question about an example, I sat on a board and sometimes they do not, in certain cases, do not require it all beforehand, and the folks come in and then they leave for a variety of reasons, and they still owe on whatever agreement was made. Yeah.
And I think Delegate
Well,
Smith
thank you.
has said on occasion that some people are looking for jobs based on the transcript. You wouldn't want somebody
Oh,
to not be
sure,
able to do
college
it.
acceptance.
Yeah, all that. So yes. Any other discussion on the bill? Okay, seeing none, it doesn't have amendments. Let's take a vote. All those in favor of the bill as described, please raise your hands.
Okay.
And Delegate Miller, I didn't see you raise your hand. I don't know if are you opposed?
Yes, opposed.
Okay, so we have one opposed. And the bill carries and we'll send it on for a vote. Okay, next bill is, and there were some others on there, but we're down to 2 here. The next one is House Bill 288, which is Superintendent's Bill. It's called, the title is misleading, that she can declare a state of emergency. The bill was intended, and we were told this by the State Department, to be for her to be able to sort of declare a state of emergency after there were 14 days. I think that does not include school days. I think 14 is 2 weeks, Alistair, if I read it correctly. If it's
I think it is school day, sir.
Oh, so that's a 14 is an unusual number to choose then, because we usually work in 5-day weeks. I think that's why I assume that. In any case, has to be an extended closure. And we have amendments that go to their purpose, was not to close down the entire state or even probably an entire county unless it was unusual, but more in the situation where a school has an asbestos problem, they have to close. She can declare a state of emergency to allow them to go virtual for those days. And Alistair, now you can jump in with me a little bit on that.
Yes, so a bill from 2023, I believe, created a system for virtual schooling. It created generally the requirements for virtual schools. Additionally, it created the requirements for schools going into virtual school mode if there was a weather event or something of that nature. And it also recreated this process by which, if there was a prolonged state of emergency, school system needed to be closed for 14 school days, in which they could implement a virtual education plan and go into virtual school in that way. Under that bill, the state of emergency was the governor's ability to declare a state of emergency. The governor's ability is only county-wide, I believe, and so this bill would make it a little bit more precise, would allow the state superintendent, with the amendments, to declare a state of emergency only for one school in a school system or multiple schools.
That are
It would give
that are generally contiguous to each other, generally, right? Is that accurate? Sorry, I caught you at the end
it
there.
just says one bill. Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay, so
if there's an emergency, that it's going to be based on the emergency. Almost certainly, if there is an emergency, they'll be contiguous. It could be multiple emergencies at once in the same school
There was
system.
something like a chemical spill near in a community, then she could do it for each of the schools in that community then.
That's right.
Okay, I see Delegate Roberson has a question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Now that I see this amendment, I do appreciate the change. I would be willing, to your point, since school days do operate in fives, I would be willing to also amend to say 15 days instead of 14. Just because if we're talking about 3 weeks, let's make it 3 weeks and not say 14. But if anybody's willing to second the motion, I'd support that.
Let's clarify, Alistair, because I was thrown off by the fact 14 seemed like 2 weeks to me over a period of 2 weeks, but it really is 14 school days. I could flip around, but you can tell me very quickly on this. Is that right?
I see on page 2, it says, I'm sorry to cut you off, Alistair, but
No, that's fine.
Just to get to it, page 2, line 3, it says, and you are correct, Mr. Chair, at a public school for at least 14 consecutive school days is what it says.
Okay. So, we can do that. I don't know why. Alistair, do you have any insight why they might have picked 14?
I don't recall. I think it seems like a little bit of making a change on the fly. I think the difference between 14 and 15 is not that much, but
Okay.
there might have been a policy reason to choose 14. So I would hesitate before
Okay.
looking into that, making the change on the fly.
So do you still want to press that, Delegate Roberson, as an amendment?
I mean, MSD is here. Are we allowed
Yeah,
to
let's see, who do we have
respond to them?
We have Laurel Cratsley. Laurel, would you like to weigh in on that for us? I meant to ask you. I just didn't see you there. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not aware of a specific rationale beyond the 14, aside from I was trying to pull up the language around the current prolonged state of emergency plans that are in statute and see if it kind of was just mirroring that requirement that would kick in for the 14 days. I think that's where the 14 came from, was the prolonged state of emergency plans that are already in place.
Okay, so it mirrors something else that exists, and it's 14 consecutive school days. Okay. Delegate Roberson?
I'll press the amendment. Yes. Let's
Okay.
make, I move that, we amend it to say 15 consecutive school days instead of 14.
Okay. Do I have a second on that amendment? I do not see one, so
That's fine.
Okay, Delegate Miller says a second. Is there any further discussion on the amendment changing the number of days from 14 to 15 consecutive school days before this bill becomes? And I'm going to allow this because MSD, Laurel, you raised your hand, but I was going to go to you anyway on that one more time if you need us to.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wanting to make sure that if we have the 14 consecutive school days already associated with the prolonged state of emergencies, would it have to be consistent in both areas?
Yes. Yeah, and I agree with you. Actually, I would prefer we didn't do this amendment, but we're gonna go through the democratic process here and see what happens. It's a small change and I'm not sure.
That's
And
fine. I mean, and we
No,
can
no.
withdraw it.
No, this is really just me expressing an opinion here, not laying my finger on the scale, okay? Delegate Hornberger, you have a question, you have a comment.
Yeah, two items. I was kind of, heaven forbid, it's, something of a mechanical failure at the school or a fire or something might force them to go into this scenario. Is
Right.
that
Yeah,
okay?
they said if they discover they have an asbestos problem, all these kind of things that would make a school close down for a period of time like that.
Mhm. And then the next question is, wouldn't they already inherently have these abilities to activate remote learning? 'Cause I
That's an
thought
excellent question.
They do now because the bill in 2023 passed. Before that, there was no statutory ability. It was kind of done on an emergency basis, and the bill in 2023 gave a framework for doing it. You have to have a virtual education plan. You have to have certain outreach. You have to do stuff about kids who need supplemental nutrition. You have to do stuff about kids who have IEPs and stuff. None of that was in the law before, and it was sort of done ad hoc. So the idea in 2023 was, let's codify this. Let's come up with a plan of what schools should do if they're faced with this situation.
Okay. And then the last question is, these emergency powers, we'll call them, they only apply to remote learning. They can't fire teachers or take other discretionary measures that would, typically be associated with what I'll call emergency powers at the executive level.
Or forgive school days, okay?
Correct.
Let's
So
be fair on
it's
that one, because this is an
purely,
issue that's coming before us these days.
yeah, so the scope of this is purely just to say I'm going to activate remote
You can have
learning.
virtual days that'll count as days, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Alistair, I'm going to ask a question. I should have thought of this before, and I'm sorry, because as the chair, I really should do this before I come, but it occurs to me that we should make sure that hourly workers are kept whole if this happens.
That's part, yes, that's
It's there
included.
already?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be still opposed to this. I still don't understand why we necessarily, to Alistair's point, why we necessarily need the bill as far as declaring it a state of emergency. I'm also not seeing the scenario that you recommended, nor I'm seeing more of an expansion of powers than maybe is in reality. But to me, it's still too open-ended, and so I am not going to be in favor for those reasons.
And thank you for weighing
So-
in. And I wasn't going to stop you, but we're on the amendment too.
No, I know,
Okay.
that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
I should clarify, I don't think anyone's talked about these particular provisions of the amendment. The amendment, so as the bills that came in just gave the authority to the state superintendent of schools. The amendments clarify how they can go about declaring an emergency and put some framework around that. So they have to consult with the governor and, if appropriate, some other state entities, including the Department of Health and others. If that's the kind of emergency that they're in, they have to make the proclamation designate the areas affected and make the proclamation in a way that is designed to get the public on notice. Additionally, there's some authority for the removal of the proclamation of emergency by the State Board of Education or the General Assembly passing a joint resolution, or the state superintendent herself. And that also has to be given out in notice. And that kind of follows the framework that the governor has in declaring a state of emergency, where there is the power, but it can be reviewed by other entities.
Is that satisfactory? At least you got an answer. Okay, let's go on the amendment. There's no further discussion on this amendment. It's either 14 or 15 days. The amendment is to change the number from 14 consecutive school days to 15 consecutive school days. All in favor of the amendment, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. Delegate Patterson. So 4 opposed. So we will not carry the amendment. On the bill with the other amendments as described, please. Is there any further discussion?
Move favorable.
I got a favorable motion on it. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Delegate Vogel. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill with the original amendments described, raise your hands, please. Hands up if you're for it. 1, 2. Is that you? Is that a hand up there, Delegate Pasteur? Yes. Delegate Vogel, is that a hand up? And Roberson, can you just call in if you're in favor of the bill? Okay, I have 4-4. Let's see, and that would leave a possibility of 2 against. All those who vote unfavorable on the bill or who do not support the favorable motion, we have 2. Okay, so we are not 5-2, but 4-2 on that. Okay, thank you. One last one. House Bill 355, which is a bill that we have seen before and passed, tried to get passed. It's one of our rare incursions into curriculum because it says that the health curriculum will have age-appropriate instruction on what human trafficking is, how it occurs, so that students can be aware if they're being groomed or if their friends are in danger, to try to help, get rid of the idea of human trafficking. This is Delegate Johnson's bill. It's been around for a couple of years. We have no amendments, right, Alistair, because it's exactly as it was before. That's correct. Is there any discussion on this bill, House Bill 355? Seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 355 as it's been presented before us, raise your hands, please. 2, waiting to see if Delegate Pasteur is in. She is, and Delegate Roberson has returned. And so that is a unanimous 7-0. And the other 2 bills that are on there are one has a sponsor problem, so we removed it today, 326. The other one is going to require some amendment, but we are looking seriously at moving forward with the bill that Delegate Vogel has so eloquently put in front of us that would perhaps allow students, if we passed it, to be able to have naloxone on their person so that they could have it during school, but also then they would still have it after school as well. So we're taking a look at some amendments on that one. We may do the anonymous reporting bill as well. We had the Maryland Center for School Safety talk to us. If you want to know the real reason I pulled it off, I'll be happy to tell you, but only offline. So thank you all very much. Nicely run meeting. And for whoever has to go to the revenue meeting, we quit in time for her. So thank you very much.